Alastair Forbes. Feel free to call me Al. If you want to reach me, al@bazaarvoice.com is my email. I have the pleasure of running the partnership team in EMEA for Bazaarvoice, so Europe, Middle East and Africa. We have a reasonably new partnership with Rusty Monkeys, which we're very excited about and equally excited to be here today. So thank you for indulging us. The brief I got from Russ was be interesting and don't be salesy. So I'll try and stick to the brief. I think everyone else maybe had the same brief because there's a lot of kind of thought leadership and industry insights. We'll have some of those in this presentation too. I loved what Mark and Teo did with the fun facts. I haven't got those, but I guess a fun fact for me is I've spent a bit of time in Nottingham, so I went to university here. I graduated in 1997, so I think it's pretty much the first time I've been back. So seeing it's quite different since then. I also had a year of university in Canada, UNB. So yeah, they're my fun facts. My friends from university used to say, you need to ignore 50% of what Al says, and then you disregard the rest. So hopefully I've grown a bit since then, but take that with a warning as we go through this presentation. So, supercharge your commerce engine, as he says, not trying to be salesy. I'd like to think that supercharge is the action word because we're in the cinema today, but it's not. It's because I work for an American company, and why help someone when you can supercharge something for them? So Bazaarvoice, if you don't know Bazaarvoice, we are based in Texas. Actually, we're based in Austin, Texas. Austin, Texas is the home of true Texan barbecue. So Franklin Barbecue, so I have my barbecue apron here, which I'm delighted to be able to give away to somebody who wants to hazard a guess or can come up with, why have I put $12 trillion on the screen? Anyone want to guess what the $12 trillion represents?
Yes.
Quite possibly. Or it could be the net worth of Louis Vuitton after the Chinese claim they made all of their bags for them. But it's not that either. Any other guesses? Apple's cash balance, yes, quite possibly. Not the figure I'm going for here. That's a really good guess. It isn't, but I'm going to give you the apron for that. So let me pass this up to you. Even for the wrong answer. No, I'm not trying to sell, but I am going to advocate for user-generated content. But I also want to talk about social content, social commerce a little bit too, because I want to give some insights to what's coming. And $12 trillion in this, certainly what I'm talking to here, is a figure that came out of some recent research that suggested it's going to be the global spend by Gen Alpha by 2030. So $12 trillion. So Gen Alpha, if you're not aware, they are the generation that was born between 2010 and 2024. So they start leaving school around the world. They start leaving schools from this year onwards. There's some other statistics that came out of some lifestyle commerce research that Accenture published last year that talked about the fact that there are 2 billion Gen Alpha for this generation. It's the largest generation in history. It will probably be the largest generation full stop because of population decline. The scary thing that I read in the research was the fact that 40%, so around 800 million of the 2 billion of Gen Alphas will have made money through content online before they leave school. And I didn't believe that, quite frankly. I read that and thought, no, it can't be right. But I've got 5 nephews who are Gen Alpha. I've got 2 kids who are Gen Alpha as well, but they're a bit younger. But I talked to all 5 of them. 3 of them have already made money. One of them is making 3,000 Australian dollars a month through helping people navigate Geometry Dash. He's a bit of a maths savant, and he's helping people navigate the levels of Geometry Dash, and he's monetizing it for around 3,000 Aussie dollars a month, which just is insane. The others have made money, small amounts of money on YouTube doing unboxings and point of view videos on different things. But yeah, quite frightening. So I have another apron to give away. So in the context of Gen Alpha then, that we've just heard a little bit about, 27%. What do we think the figure 27% could represent? Anyone want to hazard a guess? I beg your pardon?
Disposable income.
Disposable income. That's a good guess. That's a really good guess. Would you like an apron?
I never say no to an apron.
There we go. Gabriel, would you be so kind? So this is Gabriel. This is Gabriel Salinas. He's also on the Bazaarvoice partner team. Give everyone a wave, Gab. There we go. Yeah. Big round of applause. So 27%. This is a global figure. But for Gen Alpha, it's the amount of current household expenditure that they influence. So 27% of the household spend. That's a global figure. So if we think more locally, and I get the right clicker, and we think more about this market here in the UK, we're at 26%. So today, the kids in your household that were born between 2010 and 2024 are influencing 26% of what you are spending your household money on, which accounts for £3.3 billion today. So it's huge. And I know this because my kids come home from school. My son talks about us needing to have an electric car and advocating for going electric and this sort of thing. My daughter talks about what food we should be buying and why. So it's absolutely there. My daughter's even talking about holidays here, not going abroad because of the environmental impact, but that's why we choose to ignore her. That's why it's only 26%, of course. Coming on to some consumer insights as well. And I said I wanted to talk a little bit about shopping. So social shopping is the new battleground for hearts and minds of consumers. And if $12 trillion is the anticipated revenue spend, if you like, by Gen Alphas by 2030, then the anticipated spend on social channels, so the likes of Instagram, the likes of TikTok, is going to be around $7 billion by 2030, which is absolutely mammoth. So again, I'm not trying to preach to everyone and say you need to drive this, you need to do this with your business. I'm just making you aware this is coming, and it's well, it frightens me, quite frankly. But yeah, it's huge. And I think one of the key points I wanted to call out when thinking about these figures is the fact that brands are starting to take action and they are starting to do something to be ready for this. So there's a new CEO at Unilever, Fernando Fernandez, who announced very publicly that 50% of his marketing budget is now going on to user-generated content. And within that, he is going to have his teams activate 20 times more content creators and influencers to help go create that content for them. Why is he doing that? Well, he's doing it because social content, consumer-generated content is more authentic, it's far more trusted by brands, and he's also doing it because it's very hard to understand what the return on ad spend is, really. It's kind of, if you Google what a typical ROAS is, you tend to get somewhere between 2 and 4%, and it's very, very hard to attribute it. I think a good case in point, I don't know if we've got any golf fans in, but obviously seeing Rory McIlroy win the Masters last week, he wore a few different Omega watches during the week, very publicly. Every time he's interviewed, he's always kind of scratching his face or doing something to show the watches off. Very hard for Omega to actually understand how much did Rory influence the sale of those watches that week and put a definitive figure on it. If, when we're in the break after this presentation, you wanted to Google how does user-generated convert compared to paid media, you'll get a figure back somewhere between 25 to 30%. Now, interestingly, if you then start looking at how do you see conversion change if you layer user-generated content on top of paid media, then you start to get conversions above 40%. So that's why Fernando Fernandez is thinking differently about his business. He's just trying to get ahead of the change. Social is what used to be the place where everyone went to discover stuff. It actually used to be people just went to be entertained, I think, a little bit. Then it became the place for discovery. Then it became the latest search engine. And then it became way more than these things. I mean, essentially now, social is the new storefront. And it represents the new storefront for a lot of brands. Interestingly, 59% of Gen Zers already today make 1 to 2 purchases on a social media channel each month. More data I read, again from an Accenture lifestyle commerce report. It talks about aggregating data across 12 European countries that says 18 to 24-year-olds are spending 175 euros per person per month on social media channels today. So it's definitely there, and it's definitely growing. Does that mean I'm stood here advocating for everyone to kind of charge towards social sites like Instagram and TikTok for the business? Absolutely not. I think there's still the challenge. There's still the challenge over trust. There's still a challenge of, if you're buying on social, what happens to my identity? Will I have identity theft? Do I really believe this is the right brand? Is it a legitimate brand? Is the product going to be what I was sold? I have one of those stories, funnily enough. I thought I bought on Instagram a nice playpen tent for my friend when he had twin boys. And it was a pretty hot summer, so I thought I'll buy this for him. What actually turned up was a space blanket you get when you've run the marathon. So when you're doing the marathon, you might get your space blanket, and it was very small. So, but no way to find. I couldn't actually find a trail of who I purchased it from or anything. So I get that, and that was a few years ago, and it put me off for a while. So trust is definitely an issue. I think there are strategies and there are ways we can overcome this. User-generated content is one of those ways. It's essentially like the peer review. It's getting authentic, trusted advice. That's one way that helps kind of overcome some of these hurdles. So how do you ingest user-generated content in these social channels? And the other actually is still to control the narrative. So rather than allowing someone to go all the way on a social channel that's beneficial for you and then drop out and go buy somewhere else, kind of steer them, so make the inspirational content shoppable and steer them to a PDP that you own, that you can then help convert on and keep them on a seamless journey. And that kind of ties in, I think, a little bit to what Dylan was saying earlier as well. Interestingly, on the checkout piece, and again on user-generated content, we have a customer that's a global high street chain for jewelry. Headquartered out of Scandinavia, but they A/B tested, working with partners. They were A/B testing how hard is user-generated content, how hard are the reviews working for them on their PDP, and it wasn't until they decided to A/B test just putting the e-com stars, the review stars in the basket, that they saw the biggest change. They saw a 4% increase in conversion in 10 days just from putting stars in their basket. So I think one of the other messages that I would just recommend is keep testing. If you've got user-generated content on your PDP, on your page, on your site, or your checkout, great, fantastic, good job. Keep testing it. Keep seeing how hard it's working and what's working better for you. That would be some advice. Right. We have... in the same way we saw the Digital report, Bazaarvoice produces a report every year called the Shopper Experience Index. I've not linked it with a QR code, but do see us. We've again also a booth upstairs. Come and see us. I can take your details. I can send you access to it. I think it's in its 17th or 18th year now. It's an annual shopper survey. Some interesting insights. I mean, the key takeaways from last year's survey. The first one was social shopping is not as impulsive as people might assume. So only 27% reported impulse buying for low-cost items, so talking around £12, items around that value of £12. So impulse isn't quite what I think the likes of a TikTok shop or Instagram might have you believe, but it's certainly trending towards that way. And I think the other key takeaway is overwhelmingly the majority of reported price checking or researching before buying on social is kind of, it was just people are just using it for research, essentially. That was what it was saying, and I don't think that would be a surprise to anybody. Does anyone here use Instagram or YouTube or TikTok to research before buying? Yeah, lots of nodding. Yeah, hands in the air. Yeah, I'm the same. Again, within the shopper experience index, if we start thinking about the funnel, so for us, Bazaarvoice talks a lot about funnel from top of funnel to bottom of funnel. When we saw the CMO of Mondelez, I can't remember her name, unfortunately, she presented at Shop Talk last year, and she said one of the best things I think I've heard for a while, which is the top of the funnel needs to be more shoppable. And again, a little bit talking to what we've already heard from Mark, Teo and Dylan. The bottom of the funnel needs to be better at storytelling. And I think that's true on both counts. At Bazaarvoice, we're trying to do full funnel, but we assess full funnel within the shopper index. So social media is key for discovery. We know that 39% of shoppers use it to find their new products. 2023 saw a record high, proving how critical social has become. The 2024 figure, it's kind of level set. It's dropped off a little bit, but it remains strong and it's significantly above the earlier years. I think the key takeaway from this, invest in UGC, invest in creators and social first content to win at the top of the funnel. That's how you win at the top of the funnel. Consideration as we go down the funnel, purchasing with intent. So shoppers searching with intent, 39% browsing for products that they've already have in mind. I don't know who else in the room does this, but my confession is I know what I want to buy, so then I have to find reasons to justify buying it, not to me, but to my wife. Essentially, I'm looking for my excuses as to why I paid for it, and I'm sure she does the same to me. Again, 2023 was the peak, so a similar trend, 2024 remaining strong, and the key takeaway really is around the product demos that you can see, the reviews, the social proof that comes with those. We work with Kraft Heinz a lot around social proof and around demos. So if they're selling mayonnaise or they're selling ketchup, they have content creators using recipes online to show how easy it is to use, think differently about how using their sources. And they drive a huge amount of social impressions for the brand, which is obviously very important. It drives more engagement, more time on site for them as part of what we would kind of call a content supply chain. Continuing down the funnel to purchase. So, social media as a buying channel. Has everyone in the room purchased on social channels? Has anyone not purchased on social channels?
What, as in from a TikTok shop? Or?
Yeah, TikTok or Instagram or Meta. Sorry?
Only ever regretted it.
Only ever regretted it.
I buy tap all the time on Facebook.
Yeah.
Scarves, things.
So are you in the impulse category?
Terrible.
Yeah.
Right, my wife goes, no, TikTok.
Yeah.
Altered house tunes. Yeah.
There we go. Well, we're seeing now, so social commerce is surging, 82% growth from 2021 to 2024. 31% of shoppers buy via social in 2024. That's up from just the 17% in 2021. Again, another kind of reiterating what Dylan was saying, frictionless checkout is absolutely critical. In order to do that with user-generated content, product tagging, again, I think we've heard some of this already, is absolutely critical. Seamless transactions and kind of the in-app shopping experience can all help fuel growth. And again, just ensure products are shoppable, they are properly tagged, and they're optimized for an easy purchase as part of that strategy. And then at the bottom part of the funnel that people should think about, if they're not thinking about social media channels for loyalty, for advocacy, it's a great way of, again, just brand affinity and putting your brand out there. Again, the peak was 2023 for peak engagement at 42%. Advocacy isn't automatic. Brands obviously have to continue to actively nurture relationships to retain followers. Fresh, exclusive content, brand partnerships and engagement strategy is often driven by content or with content creators help revive and maintain engagement. Continuing on, I'm seeing the number of slides that are left. I don't think I should share that with you guys yet, because we have got a break coming up, by the way. We had a dinner in London for fashion retail merchants, and there were 24 dinner guests at the table, predominantly either CEOs, CMOs, and e-commerce leaders within these companies. And we asked a very simple question at the beginning of the meal: do you own your brand, or does the market own your brand? And it was amazing. The table was pretty much split 50-50 on whether they own the brand or whether they don't own the brand. And I think that's a really important question. I think Fernandez has already decided that the market owns the brand, which is why he wants to invest so heavily in content creation to go and try and reposition the brand how Unilever want the brands to be seen. We work very publicly with companies like Shark Ninja, I think, who've done a very good job of recognizing they don't necessarily own their brand and the market owns their brand, so they invest a huge amount in social too. And then we work with competitors of Shark who do less, who think, actually, no, we own our brand and we want to control that narrative, so they do less on social today. So it's going to be interesting over time to see how those two kind of very similar companies play out together. But it's a huge opportunity. I mean, 480 billion prize for content creators in terms of a market opportunity. And the creators win big. So it doesn't matter how old you are. Essentially, more than 70% of us, and I think we've already covered that mostly today in the room, engaging with creator content before buying, before making a purchase decision, which is pretty significant. If we bring it then more closely to looking at Gen Z, it's a little different. For Gen Z, social is definitely the new storefront, but they trust influencers more than they trust ads. And again, I think talks to why Unilever are taking a different direction, or taking this direction. They prefer a recommendation, essentially treating a review like a recommendation from a friend. I think if you're at the school pickup or drop off, and you're asking parents, does anyone know a good mechanic? You're quite happy if someone says, yeah, I've got a great mechanic, I've been working with them for years and they do this. Same with plumbers, same with electricians. Gen Zers view that, they view reviews in the same manner. Trusted reviews, they are influenced by those reviews and by those journeys. And the smarter brands, they're not really just chasing the big names. So I think you look at luxury. Luxury are still into advocates. I talked about Rory McIlroy and Omega watches, but all the big watch brands do that kind of thing. Interestingly, mentioning Rory McIlroy, professional golf being quite a conservative sport, the golf brand manufacturers have actually changed their stance. So unless you're consistently a top 5 in the world golfer, you don't get paid anymore to use golf clubs. You can use them like a Callaway or a Titleist golf club, and you can use them for free, and you can get all the support you need at tournaments to make adjustments, to regrip, to whatever that might be. But the money that used to go to those golfers is now going to YouTubers. It's going to content creators, because people are spending more time trusting content creator opinions, because they're not seen to be tied to a brand, and they're talking they're far more relatable. So if a market like professional golf is changing, it's quite conservative. That's it's a clear kind of leading indicator in the market for me. When we did the last survey, so we hadn't looked at this in previous surveys, but in 2024, we provided a category breakdown of the findings. I just thought I would share these in case anyone in the room's in electronics or apparel or health and beauty. These were the top categories in terms of purchase conversion following shoppers engaging with creator content, which is pretty interesting. And this is, now we get to the part where I'm going to kind of walk the line between salesy and non-salesy. If we're talking about trust and we're talking about authentic content, this is the kind of Bazaarvoice trust slide. So as a company, we're 2 years older than the iPhone. We've been around since 2005. We've spent most of that time at the bottom of the funnel, really, supporting ratings and reviews. We've done it very well. We've scaled the business very well, particularly in North America. the ability to syndicate content from a .com to the retail network has really helped, which is why we can reach 2.5 billion shoppers on a monthly basis from our content. And we really, for us, are kind of are two things that we kind of strive for. One is to turn browsers into shoppers, help customers turn their browsers into shoppers. And two is really to try and drive content at scale to benefit the market. So we sit across, one of the figures that's not on here, we sit across around 9 billion PDPs today, product description pages. And why it's important for us to drive content at scale. So I mentioned we've spent many years at the bottom of the funnel. This is our vibe slide. So I heard Matt mention vibes earlier. We're going to have some vibes today. Well, e-commerce vibes. Yeah, well, here we go. We're on message. So again, being an American company, we had to come up with a name. It's Vibe. So having spent so long at the bottom of the funnel, we've made acquisitions over the last 5 years to try and go full funnel. So we acquired a creator marketing platform called Affable. We acquired a product sampling business. So this is a community app called Influenster. There are 9 million or so everyday shoppers. And we work with brands where they don't have content, or because they're doing new product launches, or they want to do product refreshes. So if you look at digital shelf analytics and you think, do you know what, I've only got a 3.8 rating for this product, and I know that my conversion will tilt significantly upwards if I can turn that into a 4.1 and double the number of reviews on it, then we can help that brand activate that content through a sampling campaign. Equally, we can work with partners. And we're just our respective teams, so Digital and Bazaarvoice in the US, are building an integration together for things like serving user-generated content links within SMS outreach and within email. So I mentioned I was going to talk about it briefly. For us, we see responses to emails through our creator platform. So if we're outreaching to a creator at around 4%. Email can be hard yards sometimes. It is still king and queen, but it can be hard to get the response rates. SMS, the read rates are mid to high 90s for sure that we're seeing, but we're also seeing the response rates in the low 30s as well, which is much better than the 4% that we're seeing on email. So I think there is a place for SMS. There are a number of customers that we work with in the UK that use SMS, and they embed links to UGC within SMS, and it's really around either seasonal promotions, seasonal campaigns, or it's around cart abandonment strategies, and just trying to use a legitimate, authentic and trusted review to drive and tip the conversion over the edge. So product sampling. We use social commerce as well. So we acquired a company called Curelate about 4 years ago. Curelate's a social commerce platform. So social shopping, so video and photo reviews essentially on site. I'm going to talk about one of those sites in a second briefly. And then authenticity and moderation. Well, we've always been doing that. Bazaarvoice prides ourselves on the authenticity of the content. So we will publish a review whether it's 1 star or whether it's 5 stars, as long as we are confident that it's authentic. We do that through a layer of AI as a first wave of kind of assessing and stress testing, are these reviews real? And then we also, the last number I saw was we had 300 full-time employees doing content moderation to make sure we're not publishing anything that's offensive, profanity, fake, etc. We now work with a retailer, Zalando. I don't know if you know Zalando. I think most people would. I think they're probably famous, unfortunately, for being the first major European retailer to be fined for disingenuous reviews. And they were fined 19 million euros. And that was around 2019, I think, 2020. So we're now working with Zalando, and the biggest USP for us really was the moderation and how we protect the brands and protect the customers, essentially. So we source UGC, it's content at scale. We then curate the content. We try and make sure it's the hardest working content. We can amplify that. So I talked about syndication. We can syndicate written reviews, we can syndicate social reviews to site, and then we can optimize with full funnel reporting and analytics. We think that Vibe, so we're calling this combination of products Bazaarvoice Vibe. We think it's the only platform actually available in the market that has full funnel reporting, meaning from a user-generated content perspective, you can see the ROI on every single piece of content as it goes through the funnel, which is an industry first for us. So we're extremely excited by that. We're extremely excited by the partnership we have with Rusty Monkey. What we want to do with Rusty Monkey, and as an offer of help and a thank you for being here, if you work with Rusty Monkey today or you're thinking about working with Rusty Monkey, I want to pay for Rusty Monkey's time to help people. We have a product that sits within sits within social commerce called Galleries. If again, when you're in the break and you want to see what Galleries looks like live, you could look on Sephora or you could go onto the Space NK, thinking about UK clients, Space NK website. On the home page, if you just scroll down a little bit, you'll see Galleries on the bottom, and these are all genuine, it's authentic user-generated content from brand sites that are hitting Space NK. I'm more than happy to turn on Galleries on your sites. I'm more than happy to fund a sampling campaign, buy your products off you, sample them, create content, and feed into the Galleries so we can test if that is having an impact and making incremental conversions for you. And we can do that together with Rusty Monkey, who've got the experience and the expertise to do this kind of work. And as I say, we'll fund their time to do it and see if we can form a partnership together. It's Vibe. Vibe is really interesting. Bazaarvoice has been around for a while. Some people think Bazaarvoice is quite expensive. Others have described it as reassuringly expensive because of the moderation piece. Vibe is very different. Vibe is extremely accessible. We've got customers in SMB. We've got customers in kind of large enterprise. It's kind of a step process in terms of how we charge for that. Happy to talk about that upstairs too. And the final slide again, just a reminder really. So again, why Bazaarvoice? So 3 billion social impressions monthly from campaigns that we drive. So thinking about the awareness at the top of the funnel. 59% of social storefront visits convert. So what do I mean by that? Really, it's converting to an e-com experience. It's not necessarily converting to revenue, but it's converting to an e-com journey on site. 251% increase on-site conversion with social user-generated content as we think about the conversion. And then finally, 251% increase in revenue per e-com session. And again, we heard about reviews earlier and social proof, where you're 4 times more likely to purchase you're 4 times likely to receive a purchase when your PDP includes reviews on the site. So really crucial. And with that, that's me. Unless there are any questions.
Just one me again.
Yes.
Sorry. You talked a lot about the increases in behaviours and engagement with social media channels and how Gen Z and Gen Alpha are doing a lot more.
Yep.
A lot of the trends were lower than the year before, and I'm actually happy about this, but I think there's a little bit of a backlash happening on social media channels. My daughter, for example, doesn't have a Facebook account because she doesn't want to be anywhere near anything that I'm on.
Yep.
And Mark casually referred to Twitter as a cesspit because it is.
Yep.
And there seems to be a growing trend in people turning their backs on social media channels, whether that's the demographic that they happen to sit in, or just because it's just pissing everybody off.
Yeah.
What's Bazaarvoice's opinion on it, or what do you think? What's your prediction?
It's a really good question. I'll comment on my opinion, not necessarily Bazaarvoice's opinion, because I think the data in there is coming from a shopper. It's not our data, it's coming from shoppers, so it's essentially market research data. I think part of it is dropping off and leveling off because people are frustrated, because there isn't enough authentic content. I served a video the other day on my YouTube. I mean, most of the things I watch on YouTube are nothing to do with in fact, I try and avoid politics, but I got served a political video saying how Angela Rayner's about to resign because she had an affair with Keir Starmer. And it's like, okay, what is it? I mean, it's just nonsense, right? It's just noise. And so I think people are disengaging because of that. I think there's also, there's a really strong movement now that's been set up by, there's a journalist and authoress called Tana Goodin. She's been working with a lot of schools around helping keep younger children off social media because there's a lot of statistics now about how damaging it can be for their mental health. So there's a big drive, I think, around that. So certainly in the school where my kids go to, we're seeing that. We're seeing parents advocate it, or parents trying to lead the way now to advocate to keep kids off social media until they're at least 15 years old. And in some cases later than that. So I think there's these kinds of changes as well. But again, in my opinion, I just think that the weight behind social media, that you look at, one of the things for Gen Alpha I didn't talk about was the fact that they don't want to read. So the research also said they don't want to read, they only want to consume content in video format. That's how they want to learn. That's how schools have to adapt as well, because that's how they want to learn. It also talks about Gen Z, that research paper talks about Gen Z's consideration to purchase time frame was 19 days, and Gen Alpha's is going to be closer to 19 seconds. So when you think about those kind of statistics, I can only see social media and social shopping growing, and people are just going to have to work their own path through the noise, unfortunately. And we will try and help, Bazaarvoice, getting back to the Bazaarvoice hat, they'll try and help through trusted and authentic content as much as possible.
Brilliant. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, huge thank you.